Love Island has been one of the most popular shows in the UK in recent years. So popular in fact, its once-a-year schedule has recently been increased to twice a year, and it has spawned alternative versions in multiple different countries. Each summer for the past 5 years, Love Island has been broadcasted each night over 2 months to millions of viewers. But despite its popularity, Love Island is probably the most garbage piece of television I have ever had the misfortune of watching. The most important and recognisable part of Love Island is the cast that makes up the show. A group of 20-something men and women thrown into a villa for the whole of the UK to watch their every move. The sort of person you'd find on this show is usually some egotistical, self-obsessed moron who's dying for the chance to become an Instagram influencer.
So if I could describe myself in 3 words: fit, sexy, absolute cracking smile.
The problem I have with these contestants is that they're incredibly far from being an average person. Take Megan, for example, who spent 40 grand on cosmetic surgery, or Ollie, someone whose family owns an area of land worth millions. They couldn't have done a better job of choosing the most unlikable, uninteresting and unrelatable people to fill our screens for the next 2 months. We are introduced to each year's cast through a series of preliminary interview videos in which each contestant is sat down and are asked questions about themselves. Instead of actually learning anything about them though, all we are given is inappropriate camera shots and the only thing about these people the producers give a shit about: their sex life.
I know guys like my boobs. Oh, what I'm like in the bedroom, kinky.
Because I have a big wang.
The main problem with the cast, however, isn't actually their fault, but instead the fault of the producers who have forced certain rules about what the contestants are allowed to talk about. Pretty much the only thing they're allowed to talk about is the other contestants and the current happenings of the show, essentially stripping everyone of any uniqueness they had from one another. The contestants are banned from expressing anything about themselves, their interests, their hobbies, their job, anything that gives them a slight chance of being anything but the narcissistic, one-dimensional robots that they are. Some of these contestants actually have potential to be interesting people, like this guy, Alex, who is a medical doctor. This immediately makes him stand out from the sea of influencers and socialites that make up the majority of the cast. However, the show has forced him to become just as tedious as the rest of them. Instead of hearing stories about how he might have saved someone's life, we have to listen to him discussing who he'd quite like to crack on with amongst the other Neanderthals. The worst part about them is that all of these contestants go on the show under the false pretenses that they're actually looking for love and a meaningful relationship because for some reason they were unable to find it at home, when in reality the only motivation for appearing on this show is the money. And I'm not even talking about the 50 grand prize for the winners of the show, which only 2 people receive. I'm talking about the numerous brand deals, club appearances and Instagram followers these people receive, which turn them into millionaires after leaving the show. The format of the show is as followed. At the beginning of the series, the first batch of contestants are thrown into the villa and take part in the first coupling ceremony, where each man chooses a woman to be coupled up with. However, there is always an uneven amount of men and women, so there is always one person not in a couple. After a week, a recoupling ceremony takes place in which the contestants can choose to remain with their partner or choose someone new to couple up with, and the person not in a couple is kicked off the show. This process repeats every week with new contestants coming in and alternative ways for people to be kicked off the show, for example by a vote. This happens until there is only a few couples left when the final takes place, in which a winner is decided by public vote. Before the winning couple takes home a share of £50,000, they take part in some golden balls type split or steal scenario, in which one of them has the chance to take the £50,000 all for themselves. This seems completely trivial though, as nobody in the history of the show has chosen to steal, and it's extremely unlikely anyone in the future would either. Each episode of the show is an hour long, consisting of pretty much nothing but the contestants sitting down and talking about the meaningless drama that is happening at the moment. Occasionally the contestants will have to compete in some sort of challenge, which resembles something closer to an orgy rather than anything remotely challenging. There has been a lot of claims that anyone who criticises the show in any way is being elitist. People such as Piers Morgan, who has famously mocked some of the cast members for being unintelligent. These claims are extremely hypocritical because Love Island is one of the, if not the most elitist show on TV. Just look at the cast. These people are extremely good looking and in perfect shape. Not a single person on this show could be considered unattractive. Not to mention the fact that to even be considered as a contestant on the show, you had to have a decent sized Instagram following of at least a few thousand. To conclude, I think Love Island is a terrible program, and I believe the world would be much better off if it didn't exist. In fact, possibly the only benefit of the coronavirus pandemic is that it cancelled Love Island for a year. However, unlike the virus, the show isn't going away, and there isn't a vaccine to protect against it. It can never, ever die.